Good morning, everyone. I am Teacher Jarrett, and today we are going to be talking about how do we get our food. So today we are going to be reading a nonfiction story, and we are going to think about our essential question, which is how do we get our food? Read about where breakfast foods come from. The name of this story is A Look at Breakfast. So, breakfast is the meal that we eat in the morning. Okay? So, when you wake up, before you go to work or before you go to school, you eat breakfast. So, here's a boy, and he's eating breakfast before school, right? And we can see that he has some grape jelly and some bread, and he's putting the grape jelly on the bread, and he's also drinking orange juice, right? So that's what he's eating for breakfast. And we can also see here some cereal too. Yeah. So he has fruits and grains and more fruits for his breakfast, right? So he's missing vegetables and dairy and protein. Remember we talked about the food groups last time? So, but he still has 2 food groups at least, so that's good. Now let's go to the next page. Bread is good for breakfast, but this isn't bread yet. It is wheat. Flour will be made from the wheat. The wheat is crushed to make flour. So this here is wheat. See, big fields of wheat. And there's a truck that comes and catches all the wheat. It picks it up. So it cuts this down, cut, and then it takes the wheat and puts it into a trailer. So it can take all of the wheat that it collects back to the farm so that it can be processed. It is crushed. So processed or crushed to make flour. And flour is here on the next page. This is flour. It comes in a bag that's maybe this big and then this tall, and it's white powder. Okay, so let's talk more about bread. First, dough is made. Next, the dough is shaped and baked. Then it is done. It is bread. Last, the bread is put in bags. So we said done means to be finished, right? Over. So that means, in this case, it means the bread is ready to eat. Okay? So they take the flour from the wheat and then they put it into a bowl, put it in, and they add a couple other ingredients, right? And then they mix it up and then they make it into a shape. So here we can see the shape is a oval, right? But sometimes you can make circles, or sometimes they make squares, right? Or they can even make heart shapes, right? Whatever shape you want to make. Then it's baked. Remember we talked about baking. You can see here's an oven, and an oven is something that heats the food from all sides. It's like a very hot box. So you put the food into the oven and it gets heated from the top, and it gets heated from the bottom, and then it gets heated from the sides, and so then it's always hot. And so then the dough turns into finished bread after it is baked. Okay? Now, let's go to the next page. Look, grape jam is good on bread. But this isn't jam yet. It is a grapevine full of grapes. Grapes grow on vines and then are picked when they are ripe. So the grapes are growing on the vines, and this person, this woman, has to pick all the grapes. See, she's cutting the grapes off. And then they go into her basket, and then she takes it to the place that makes grape jam, right? This is grape jam. Some people call it jelly, some people call it jam. So now we can see that trucks take the grapes to a plant or a factory. Every grape is crushed to make mush. After that, the mush is cooked. Now it is grape jam. Yum! Okay, so these are all the grapes, and then they get mushed. Mush, 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 mush. And then it's in a big pot of mush. So it's all the grapes that are mushed up. And what they do is they heat the mush, right? Because remember, we talked about germs or things that can make you sick being in the food, right? So they cook the grapes and heat them up so that they can get rid of all of the germs and bad things that can make you or me sick, okay? So after it is cooked, it is grape jam. So then you can put it on your bread and eat it. Yum. Okay. And the words we learned, every means all, right? So all of the grapes that come to this factory or to this plant are crushed. So if they bring 100 grapes, then 100 grapes are crushed. If they bring 2 million grapes, then 2 million grapes get crushed, okay? And also after, remember, after is a word to tell sequence, so it can be next or then or after. In this case, they used after. Now let's go to our next page. Orange juice is good for breakfast too. Lots and lots of sun makes oranges big and ripe. They will taste good. Soon, the big ripe oranges will get pulled down. So this paragraph is telling us how oranges grow. And it's showing us a picture of the oranges getting big and ripe. Yeah? So when they say soon, the big ripe oranges will get pulled down, it means that in a very short period of time, or very quickly, someone will come and pull down the oranges, okay? So maybe if today is Tuesday, when we're looking at this picture, maybe Wednesday or Thursday, someone will come and pull all the oranges down, okay? Yeah. So trucks take piles and piles of oranges to a plant or a factory. Then they get washed. Next, they get crushed. Big sacks get filled with juice. So the trucks take the oranges to this plant, and then they all get washed. Wash, 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 right? And then they get crushed. So because the oranges have lots of juice inside, they take a machine and they go, and they crush all the oranges. So all of the juice comes out. And the juice comes in these pipes, and it comes out into the big plastic bags, okay? Yeah. The food is shipped in trucks to shops. It is stacked up. Now it is for sale. People will buy it and bring it home. It will make a good breakfast. So after the orange juice is put into containers, and the grape jam is put into jars, and the bread is put into plastic bags, it's going to go to the store in trucks. And the store takes it all out, and then it puts it on the shelf, right? So that when you or your mother or your father go to the store, they see all of the food. and they can pick what food they want. Okay? So the last word here we talked about is buy. So when you buy something, it means you give someone money and then they give you something. So in this example, the people are buying food. So the people are giving money to the store and the store is giving them food. Okay? So their next page shows that it takes work to make food for breakfast. So remember, we talked about work being a word that shows you have to do something in order to get something, right? So you have to clean, you have to sweep the floors to have a clean house, right? So that's a type of work. Or you have to go to your company and work for them, and then they give you money, right? So you're doing something, and then they give you money. So let's look at our chart of the food and where it comes from. So the food, where it comes from, how it is made. Okay, so we have bread, where it comes from, wheat, and how it is made. Wheat is crushed into flour. Dough is made. Dough is baked into bread. Now let's look at grape jam. So grape jam comes from grapes, and it is made when grapes are crushed to make mush, and mush is cooked into jam. Okay, and finally we have orange juice, which is made from oranges, right? Oranges are crushed into juice, and that is how orange juice is made. So these are 3 things that people eat for breakfast, okay? Maybe you eat other things for breakfast. Maybe you eat rice or tofu or cereal or eggs, right? And so all of those foods also come from different places and are made in different ways, right? Yeah. So let's go to our next page. Okay, so our next page we are going to talk about comprehension. And we've said before, comprehension is understanding what you are reading. So sometimes you know the word or you can sound the word out, but you don't always know what it means, right? So comprehension, when we study comprehension, we are learning what the words mean, okay? So today we will be talking about sequence. Authors often give information in sequence or time order. Words such as first, next, then, and last help you understand the sequence. Find text evidence. Find the first thing that happens when flour is made into bread. So we can read this page, we can read these couple sentences here and look at the sequence. First, dough is made. Next, the dough is shaped and baked. Then it is done. It is bread. Last, the bread is put in bags. Okay? So the question is, find the first thing that happens when flour is made into bread. So if we start with flour and we want to make bread, what's the first thing we have to do? First, dough is made. Yeah, so the first thing we have to do before we turn flour, when we turn flour into bread, is to make dough. And so then we take some flour, and then we put water in, and then we put some other ingredients into a bowl, and then we mix it up, right? And that makes dough. And then we can take the dough out and make shapes. Okay? So that is the answer to this question. Now let's go to our next page. Okay, now we will be talking about sequence. So first, dough is made. Next, the dough is shaped and baked. Then it is done. Last, the bread is put in bags. Talk about how other foods in the story, A Look at Breakfast, are made. Tell what happens in sequence. Okay, so let's make a sequence chart here. All right. So there's first, next, then last. Okay. So now let's go to the page for orange juice. So, So first, the oranges need lots of sun to get big and ripe. And then the oranges are pulled down, right? And then the oranges get washed and crushed and they fill bags with juice, right? So let's type here. First, the oranges get big and ripe before are down. Okay. So that's first. So first the oranges get big and ripe before they get pulled down. And the oranges are pulled down and taken to a plant, right? Next, they get washed and next, we can say next, they get washed and finally, they get crushed and big sacks get filled with juice. Okay, so this is the sequence of how to make orange juice. So let's put this here. And then we'll get our little arrows out so we know the sequence, okay? Okay, so let's review. First, we'll go down to our sequence chart. So first, the oranges get big and ripe. Let's do this. And they are pulled down. So they get big and ripe and they are pulled down, right? They're in the tree and people pull them. Then the oranges are pulled down and taken to a plant. Let's do this. Then we can say then the oranges are taken, because we said they are pulled down up here. So then the oranges are taken to a plant, right? Next, they get washed. And finally, they get crushed and big sacks get filled with juice, right? So that's oranges. Now we can go and look at grapes. Okay, so we'll erase this and then talk about grapes. So for grapes, first, grapes grow on the vines and get picked when they are ripe. Okay, so here's grapes growing, and when they get ripe, then they get picked. Now we can see that, so that's first. We can say then trucks take the grapes to a plant or a factory, right? And next, the grapes are crushed and the mush is cooked, right? And last, even though they don't say it on here, we'll put it on. Last, the grape jam comes out and it is put in jars. Okay? So that is our sequence of events to make jam. So that's how you take grapes and turn them into jam. Okay? So now that we finished with our sequence here, we talked about all three things, right? Yeah. So now let's go to the next page. Writing and grammar. Readers 2. Ideas. Brooke had an idea for a topic. She wrote about food. Brooke's opinion. Food is a fun topic. It isn't dull at all. There are lots and lots of fun facts. I didn't know how grape jam is made. Now I do. Okay, so now your turn. Tell what reasons Brooke gave for her opinion. Okay, so Brooke said that food is a fun topic, right? That is her opinion. So we'll put an O. Oh, that's her opinion. So we want to know why she thinks food is a fun topic, right? So she said there are lots and lots of fun facts. So that means when you learn about food, when you learn facts, you have fun at the same time, right? Yeah. And so another reason she said is she didn't know how grape jam is made. And now she does. Now I do. So here's another example why she thinks food is fun. She didn't know how grape jam is made, but now she does. And so she thinks that learning about how food is made is also very fun, right? So that's the two reasons, those are the two reasons that Brooke thinks food is a fun topic. Okay? Now let's erase this and go to our next page. Oh, and this is our last page for today. So let's focus and learn, and then we'll be done, okay? So the page now is writers. So we will learn about contractions with not. A contraction is a short way of writing two words. The contraction isn't is a short way of writing is and not. The apostrophe, right there, takes the place of the missing letter O. So for example, it isn't dull at all. So when she writes isn't, it's another way to say is not. So another way of writing it is not. So it is not dull at all, right? So that's one contraction. Now let's do your turn. Find another contraction in Brooke's writing. What two words make the contraction? Okay, so let's erase this and find the new contraction. So here's isn't, so we already found that one in our example, right? And now, here's another one, didn't. And so that is D, I, D, did, right? Not. N-O-T, did not. I did not know how grape jam is made. So instead of saying did not, she wrote didn't, because that's an easier way to write the two words, okay? So we found the other contraction that she used. Now let's go to our last question, and it says write new sentences. Use contractions with not. So we can say, for example, we can say, when I was little, I wasn't very big. Now I am so tall. Right? So this word wasn't is also the same as was not. So when I was little, I was not very big. So you can say was not or wasn't. Let's think of one more. We can say it is already 10 o'clock a.m. and I still haven't eaten breakfast yet, right? So you can say have, instead of haven't, you can say have not. So it is already 10 a.m. and I still haven't eaten breakfast yet. Or you can say it is already 10 a.m. and I still have not eaten breakfast yet. Okay, so those are some examples of contractions that you can use when you talk or when you write. But usually when you write to friends or you write letters, you can use contractions. But if you write papers or you do homework for school, you should still use was not or have not or is not, okay? Because is not and have not and was not is the professional way to write. But if you're writing to friends or writing a story for yourself, you can use contractions all the time, okay? So just follow what your teacher tells you to do. Okay, well, that is all the time we have for today. We finished our lesson. So now it's time to say bye-bye, okay? I have to go, and you have to go. You can go and look at jam or think about other foods in your house and how they are made. And you can practice using sequence of events words and contractions today, okay? So many new things that we learned today. All right, so now it's time for me to say bye-bye. But I will see you next time. Okay, bye-bye.